Millions of followers in India and preaches the existence of one supreme consciousness in every human being, be it Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh or any other. However, last week a 16-year-old girl filed a formal complaint in which she told police that she was sexually assaulted by Asaram Bapu after being taken to his ashram by her parents for healing. The crime has sparked universal outrage, with ministers saying that anyone involved in such heinous acts should be punished severely, irrespective of their social status.
If he is a saint, he should behave like one. I believe that the kind of cases he is involved in shows that he does not possess any qualities of a saint, and it is all a drama.
The government has been heavily criticised for not taking strict action.
The government is hesitating to take action against a man who does not speak sense and has charges of rape against him by a minor girl. You're not taking any actions against such people, and then they are condemning others for not arresting Hafiz Saeed.
Women took to the streets in droves to demand action, taking over the city streets and shouting slogans against the holy man.
He should be arrested, as everyone is equal in the eyes of the law.
With other recent stories of gang rape and violence hitting India's headlines, clearly more needs to be done to improve the safety of women in the region.
Well, a really shocking story there, Sister Shahina.
It is. I don't know if you heard about the recent gang rape against, not the one in Delhi that caused riots. There was another one recently where 5 men raped a young girl. Again, and it's just, I think, you know, we've been waiting for the tipping point to be hit, and India sort of hit the tipping point, and they're just fed up of it. But the question is, you know, it's not just India, it's not just the Asian countries, it's not just the Muslim countries, it's even here in UK. I don't think there's a single country on the planet where this sexual abuse is not rife and sexual assault is not rife. It's just, you know, it just makes you question, why is it people feel that they can do this to women? Why is it that they hold this perception that they do what they like to women, you know, thinking their dignity? And it's not just to women, it's not just to girls, boys as well. You have all these institutions, even here, you had the Jimmy Savile case, you've got these Catholic churches, you've got priests, you've got even some madrasas. It's just everywhere. It's just horrible that women are viewed in this way.
I mean, it does raise a lot of questions for people as well, not only because of this, but also the idea of, you know, you kind of trust in these institutions almost, and when that trust is taken away, it can lead a lot of doubt for people.
So there is no trust now. There is no trust today. You can't send your child to a teacher and, you know, hope that they're just going to teach them and nothing is going to happen. You constantly, you know, question yourself to really obsessive point sometimes, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the gentlemen on the video was making a good point that you can't just prosecute people who have all the attention. You know, the high-profile cases. It needs to be broad, isn't it? And he was indicating that this is not equal, and that this isn't something that's treated properly and in a general way towards all people who commit these kind of crimes. It also gets me thinking, subhanAllah, like Sister Shaheen was saying, is very, very broad. This is something, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, in the West or in the East, is something that people have this idea. There are some individuals who think that it's okay to treat others how they want. They believe that they are free to indulge in whatever they want, whether someone is very old or very young. There's no discrimination. It gets me thinking about some statistics within the West that 1 in 5 women have experienced a sexual offence by the age of 16. 1 in 20 have experienced a serious sexual attack like rape. And that's in the UK, I believe.
Statistic.
So, subhanAllah, it's a worldwide thing, and it's not just an India problem.
Just from top to bottom, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's move now to our next story.
There's an interesting one on the Telegraph where the headline is "Children are born believers in God, academic claims." So this Dr. Justin Barrett, he's a senior researcher at University of Oxford Centre for Anthropology and Mind, and he's done a research and he's found even young children as young as 12 months who are not being raised by religious parents, that there are signs in their behaviours, and he's found indications that they believe in a creator. And he's said that even if you drop the children in an island somewhere by themselves without teaching them, they will grow up to believe in a creator because the human mind is inclined to it. So the bottom line is, he's saying it's innate. It's not something that's taught. It's a natural human instinct to believe in something just by looking at the environment and your rational thinking. That's just something really interesting to point out.
I think that is really interesting, and it also, aside from demonstrating that every human being does kind of have a sanctification instinct. It's also interesting to note that he said if you put them on an island without any influence, that they would worship their creator. Whereas in society we see that people take that instinct to worship something and sometimes end up worshipping the wrong things. For example, themselves or celebrities, things like that. So yeah, exactly.
It has to be fulfilled in some form or the other, doesn't it?
Well, our next story, Sister Zainab.
Yes, from France 24. The title of the article is "A French Girl Attempts Suicide After Veil Attack." This things just seem to be getting worse, increasingly worse in France. This poor girl, she was attacked, assaulted by skinheads. They used a sharp object against her, ripped off her hijab, pushed her away, and things like that. And so she's mentally, essentially, there's some trauma there within this poor sister. The first attempt was an overdose of basically too much medication, and the second attempt, which is what this is about, is that she jumped from a 4th floor building in an attempt to kill herself.
She seriously injured herself.
Yeah, but she's basically seriously injured herself.
But I think the response on the street has been by the authorities that they've sent out riot police to make sure that no riots happen.
Yeah.
And one of the residents, there was a quote, he was saying, it's sad to see the reaction rather than sending counsellors to counsel these people, because she's obviously traumatised. The people are obviously traumatised by all the Islamophobic attacks, because it's quite rife. Instead of sending someone to help, they're sending in riot police.
It's interesting, what makes it acceptable to behave like this? What makes that, why is a group of people treated at a lower standard than anyone else? If this happened to any other community, you'd think that there would be a lot more, there would be a cry out from the rest of society, isn't it? But, it shouldn't shock us at all. When you've got governments and media, especially within the Western nations, and definitely in France and the UK, that have a very negative way of discussing Muslims. From the race and reform Islam and Muslims in the British media, there's a quote, a very apt quote, that says, that the British media is overwhelmingly negative, stereotypical, inaccurate and racist. Subhanallah.
That's shocking.
So it shouldn't be a shock to us that Muslims have become vilified in the media, and that people will then learn from that it's okay to treat these people, to treat Muslims in this way and to see them as
well, we'll
enemies.
definitely keep track of that story then, inshallah. Our next story is from Egypt.
Yep. So this is from the New York Times. Egypt military enlists religion to quell the ranks. This is a really quite inspiring story, as well as very sad. Basically, the military have enlisted Muslim scholars to convince the lower ranks of the army and the police that it is their religious duty to obey the orders of the government to use deadly force. So we know that hundreds of people have been killed through the Muslim Brotherhood's protests, demonstrate. That's it. Many have been killed. And they're so worried about insubordination within the ranks that they've had to get these scholars to come out and actually use very typical rhetoric from what you hear from jihadis, basically radical militants, to be able to convince people that it is okay to kill your own people. It's okay to kill your own ummah. Astaghfirullah.
I was quite gobsmacked when I read this story. We were discussing earlier, isn't it? The fact that they've come in and he's claiming that he's trying to get rid of any form of religion, any form of Islam. It should have nothing to do with society and ruling. And he's come to get rid of all these Islamic groups. Yet he's using Islam to justify to his soldiers to kill the citizens on the streets.
Yeah,
I was finding that quite gobsmacking, but also just trying to take positive out of that. As you said, it shows that there are sincere people within the army, and there's Muslims there who don't want to do what's happening, and they're being forced to, or somehow they're making them do this. And a lot of these people, you got to understand as well, they're in it for the job, for the money to feed their family. So often they probably don't want to do it, and you don't know what kind of duress they're putting them under as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. That it's clear that the army the Egyptian army is way too concerned with keeping control and this obsession with power, and also of pleasing basically America essentially, rather than pleasing Allah. Yet they expect their their people to do that. And one other issue with this is how shocking it should be to us that our Muslim scholars can dare say things like this. The complete sellouts, subhanAllah.
We are told to beware of the scholars at the steps of the rulers.
That's it. So, you know, we should be accounting them and also thinking about what they're saying and looking at the evidences, not just following whatever they're saying.
Absolutely, we should be critical and really kind of, you know, make our own judgments on things as well. Well, I've got a story here from The Independent, and the headline is Jamie Oliver, let them eat stale bread. I found this one really interesting, actually. Now, the story goes that he actually made some comments a few days ago about the fact that he feels that people that are kind of impoverished in the UK are not using their resources effectively. And he states things like they just chuck away bread, even though it's a little bit stale, or perhaps they're kind of using the ready meal option, which is actually more expensive than cooking your own meal. So there's been this like a really interesting debate, because a few critics have said that actually a lot of his brand is made up of this, ready meals and things like that. So there's been debate on both sides, and I found it really interesting. I found it really interesting, actually, you know, because we've got this backdrop really of, you know, the food banks, people are turning to that more, and this whole idea of people really struggling with food and things like that. So I just found it a really, really interesting story.
I think some of the people have criticised that it's easy for him to say that because he's a millionaire. He's got a good few £1 million in the bank, so he can say that.
Well, it's definitely an interesting story, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, sisters, for that discussion. Well, before we move to a break, our poll question this week is the mother the hub of the family and society? All you have to do is log on to our website, www.islamchannel.tv/programmes, and you can cast your vote there. We'll see you in just a few minutes, where we delve straight into our main segment in Her Views. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
That was good. Shahina, if you can, is there a reason your phone is up here?
Oh, subhanallah, no.
Okay, can you put that away, please? And yeah, you guys all right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we've got a 3-minute break, and then we're going to the next part. So we've got a meeting for this as well. I'll let you guys know.
Oh, we need to comment on it, don't we?
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Pages and pages of notes. Yeah, I'm just putting some bullet points. I don't want you looking down. Usually I have like that, and it makes me feel much more comfortable.
Distracting as well.
It is distracting,
30 seconds to go. Is your cough all right, sis? Your cough is okay?
Yeah, it's gone.
You're being really psychological as well.
It works.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back. You're watching Women's AM with myself, Hassana, and on the panel joining me today we have Sister Shahina, Sister Zainab, and our special guest today, Sister Zara. Well, moving on now to today's topic, let's go straight to Her Views, where today we discuss Islamic knowledge and ask, where are the female scholars? Fatima Al-Fihri founded the first university. Ibn Taymiyyah and many other great scholars had female teachers. The Khalif Umar bin Abdul Aziz used to say, if you want to learn hadith, go to Amra. Amra, of course, was one of the greatest female scholars. The outsider's view of Islam is often that women are left on the sidelines while men excel in deen and dunya. However, this cannot be further from the truth, as women under Islam thrive as mothers, businesswomen, state workers, as well as scholars of the deen. Unfortunately, this outsider's view of Islam is something we have also adopted for ourselves. Hence, we have seen more women fighting for masjid space rather than holistically enjoying the good and forbidding the evil. And female teachers have mostly limited themselves to teaching the fiqh of menstruation rather than learning and teaching deen that affects all members and aspects of our society. As evident from our history, this is not from Islam. So how did we reach this state? Before we move on to our discussion, let's take a look at this clip.
Knowledge is power is a universally well-known quote. Seeking knowledge is an important action in Islam and is obligated on both men and women. In fact, women scholars have been key to the collection and preservation of Islamic knowledge. Learning is not only restricted to the Islamic sciences, but includes studying subjects like maths, chemistry and history in order to develop and progress. Unfortunately, in recent years, there has been a huge decline in women teachers and scholars compared to their male counterparts. This gap can be due to many things. Some claim a woman's role in the house prevents her from going out to seek knowledge. An unsupportive family can hinder pursuing higher education. More general problems also exist, such as living in conflict zones or else suffering financial difficulties. These students at Gaza's Al-Azhar University are facing crippling debt in their search for an education.
We admit that Al-Azhar University faces financial crisis. We do not want Palestinian students to become victims of the crisis. Our people suffer a lot from poverty and unemployment.